All right then, boys and girls, we've got a good one for you on this one here. So there's a lot of different lessons to be learned with this drawing here, and a lot of things that we're going to build upon from things that we've already known. Okay, the first thing that I wanted to point out is that your point of view in this one is a little different, right? You are elevated and looking down a little bit. So that's you, that's your hand, and maybe that's your picture right there, looking down into this area. So that's why if it looks a little goofy, the angle, is because, like I say, you're looking down. So what does that mean? Well, it's this. Most of the time when you are just level with the ground, then your horizon line, your own personal horizon line, is going to be about midway, because your eyes, they're just going to look in the middle of your field of view. Now, the vanishing point where you look, in other words, the focal point of everything going in, that can change. But your horizon line is naturally sort of more in the middle, naturally. But it can move too, as you'll see. So anyways, the vanishing point on this one, you see, was not in the center. It was moved over. And, because your vanishing point, that's where you're looking, but maybe all the buildings, they're aligned a little bit differently than that. And if you were to just, turn your head, you would see how that works. I mean, like really, literally turn your head in real life. Here, we've got the vanishing point way over here, and also our horizon line, you see, is much lower on the paper right here. So this is also a little bit unusual horizon line for us, an unusual view. But it's less unsettling when we're looking up at things like this. And on this one, we've got it horizon line, center, because we're level with the ground, and we've got our vanishing point is just smack dab in the middle, because everything's going to that. And very nice, it's a very satisfying view to have it go this way, because everything's lined up. Anyways, in this one, our vanishing point is in the center, but her horizon line is moved up a little bit. The fact that we're elevated, see, I think that that's a little bit more unnatural feeling is because that's not our natural state. It's easy for us to become lower, but it's much more difficult for us to be higher. We have to actually be up on something. Okay, anyways, so that's one of the lessons to be learned with this, is that you can move that horizon line and you can move that vanishing point around. We've done that on every drawing. The big takeaway, though, on this is how do you draw a square? Because a square is a super useful thing. If you can draw a square in perspective, then you can draw architectural things very precisely. And what's more is that you can draw circles, because you can't really draw an accurate circle without being able to draw a square. Otherwise, it's all just rectangles and ovals. But having that square, super useful. So in this one, I think I'm going to give you a little bit of pre-information before we go into the drawing anymore. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so we're going to begin by learning how to draw a square. First thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make extensive use of my paper ruler and maybe another piece of paper here to get things centered, because I think that will just make things a lot easier for us. So here I've just folded this paper in half, and that's giving me my halfway points on various things. And you'll see with the paper ruler, I'm going to be making lots of marks on it just to get everything just right, because sometimes things just work a lot easier if they are, well, just right. So here we go. I've got my horizon, and this time I've just got it halfway. But, I was careful just for the point of our demonstration that I really got that level. The measurements are good on that one. So let's say we're just drawing a square. Okay, so the front of the square, that's rather arbitrary. That's just wherever you wanted it to be, correct? Okay, so if you've got a square, then what we could do is draw to the vanishing point Okay, fair enough. Let me clean that up just a little bit. Trying to keep everything nice and level for now, so that it all works out. Okay, so there's my leading edge, the front, and here's my two sides just going back to a vanishing point. Okay, easy enough. The way I determine this back line here is just by taking a corner of my square and going off to the end of your field of vision right here. The end of your field of vision, in other words, for our purposes, the edge of the paper. And right there, okay, right where this intersects that on this line, that's where the depth of your square is. And watch. It should line up. So if I got this here from this corner, the other end over here, my field of vision, you'll see that these are pretty darn level. See, I could even check here, here, look at that. It turned out level. Okay, cool. So that's my square. And that's a super nice thing to have because when you have a square, you've got units. Now, I could make a checkerboard pattern here just by doing this. The measurement here on my front is not going to change. So if that's how wide my first tile is, my second tile is going to be just that big. Here it goes all the way to the edge. And right here, it doesn't go quite all the way to the edge. Okay, good enough. So I'll just draw a little line there. Okay, and here, this would go all the way back to our vanishing point. And here, back to our vanishing point. And you'll see that this has the same back. It'll be level as this. How do I know? Because this should be basically the same measurement. I mean, things might not be absolutely perfect, because I'm not a machine, but look at that. See, it lined right up with there, didn't it? Here, the other side, it lined right up with it, or at least pretty darn close, right? Okay, and the only reason why it doesn't line up perfect is I'm not drawing perfect lines. But you can see if I go from this corner here to the edge, it's the same thing. See, it wound up just at that place, just the same way this was. So it doesn't matter if the square is over here, in the center, over here, it's still, the edge of it is still going to line up with your field of view, the edge of your field of view. Isn't that neat? And I think that's a really neat trick, and I'm going to have to give credit for where I found it because I searched for years, and none of my art teachers and none of the books that I read, and none of them gave you this. They all said, well, you know, if it looks right, it probably is. Which I say a lot about a lot of things, but not about this. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to go from this corner here, right? I'm going to make a new row of squares. So from this corner here to the edge of my field of vision, right here. And so right here, that's where my next level is going to be. So I won't do all those other ones again. I'll just show you that that's where it's at. So line that up. Get it pretty straight. Hopefully that's pretty straight. So that was my next row of squares. And here is, in fact, my next one is right there. Okay, keep this nice and level. Okay, so where would my next row of squares be? Well, I've got to go from the corner of this here, see, over to here, and that's where it will be level. See how these all lined up? This one and this one and this one, and now this new edge right here That's my next one here. I'll draw the line all the way through. Normally I wouldn't keep drawing the line all the way through because that's just more lines that I'm going to have to erase, right? But here, you can see how that goes all the way through. And so here was my next square. Now this is similar to, but different than what I showed you at the train tracks. Okay, so you see how I got this nice little area here. It's got all these squares. And they're all right, which is really cool. That's really cool. See that? Okay. And if I wanted to make this wider, that'd be easy too, because remember this measurement here is the same. It's always the same. So it'd be the same up here too. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to add another row. And let me see, that's where it dissects right there. So I'll just make it that wide on that side. A couple more on this side. And that's where my other row of squares would be. See? Just add that right onto there. Right. So that's how I get a bunch of squares. Okay, anyways, as I was saying, not to confuse this with the train tracks or the fence posts. So this is just a little bit different, so don't be confused. Because with those, what we did was this. Let's get another piece of paper here. That'll be easier. With those, what we had is I had this going to my horizon line, and I don't need to be near as careful with this one. And for the, I don't know, for the line of fences, you know, I just had one fence, and it went off to my vanishing point. And then I arbitrarily said, like, okay, I'm going to have another fence post here. I could find the center of those. And I could draw from this corner here through the center and on to where the next one would be. Same thing when I had train tracks. Went down the center. I arbitrarily, in other words, I'm just pulling this out of a hat. And I said, oh, okay, so if I went from the edge here through the middle, that's where the next one would be, so forth and so on. This is a little different, remember, because what this is I have my square, here's the edge, here's the other two edges, but it goes all the way back to here. That's your big takeaway. See, so this is not arbitrary. This was arbitrary, whether it was this or this. I just made that up. But this, my friends, is precise. And that's why you can use it to make architectural things like this here. Because if you can make a square, you can make a cube. Let's show you that one, and then we'll end the video. Cube over here. I'm not going to draw it very big, kind of a littler one. So that's how big my square is. Okay, and let's Again, that's how long this is, so this would have to be the same. If it's going to be a cube, it has to be even. Okay, so this is the back edge right here, so that just goes up. And we know this is also just parallel right here. So maybe that's a little bit easier. That was hard to see the top. But here is your cube right here. Cool. Okay. So what can we do with a square and a cube? Well, let me cut this video off right here. And so in the next one, I'll show you exactly what you can do with like a square and a cube.